Networking is more than just exchanging business cards or connecting online. It's about building relationships with intent. Choosing the right networking approach depends on personal preferences, industry demands, and long-term goals. In-person networking offers immediate feedback, stronger rapport, and trust-building opportunities. It includes conferences, meetups, and industry events, where spontaneous conversations often lead to unexpected opportunities. For introverts, smaller gatherings or structured networking groups can provide a more comfortable environment. Online networking extends reach beyond geographical limits, allowing professionals to connect through platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter, or industry-specific communities. Each platform serves different purposes. LinkedIn for professional branding, Twitter for thought leadership, and niche forums for specialized discussions. A hybrid approach combines both, leveraging online tools to maintain connections formed in person. Strategic engagement, consistency, and follow-ups ensure networking remains a valuable tool for personal and professional growth.
Matthew, you argue that introverts can be the best networkers with the right system. How did you go from painfully shy and terrified to thriving in sales, networking, and public speaking?
Well, I think to answer your networking question, I think I threw away the elevator pitch. I feel like most introverts would rather have a root canal than go out networking, especially if they have to do the traditional elevator script, which is, I do this for this group of people, even if, which basically just sounds so transactional. I mean, when I first moved to the United States, I made the decision that I was going to help introverts, predominantly introverts that wanted to grow businesses. And I wanted to teach them the skills that I'd learned over the years, because I also fell into sales and had no business being in sales either. And I remember the first time I started to explain what it was that I did. And I remember them telling me about this gym that they owned. And they asked me after about 10 minutes of explaining what they did, what I did. And I said, oh, I'm a sales trainer. And oh my gosh, I wish I didn't say that, because he then for the next 5 minutes explained the bad experiences he had. He looked at me like I was one step above a scam artist. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. And maybe I'll say I'm a marketer next time. Well, so I said I was a marketer the next time. And straight away I got this, oh, I need marketing. How much do you cost? And I'm like, well, I just met you. Now we're talking about price. And then the next person said, oh, I've already got someone in marketing. And what am I've got magic ruby slippers. What do you say to that? So what I realized is there needed to be a new way of explaining what I did. And I needed to create a category of my own. And if we get time, I mean, that's why I call myself the rapid growth guy. But when somebody asks me what that is, because it basically breaks their brain, they're like, well, I don't know what box to put that in. Plus, I've been interested before I try to be interesting. I will then respond with, well, one of the things I love to see more than anything in the world is an amazing introverted service provider with enough talent, skill, and belief in themselves to start a business of their own. I just find, and I just hate seeing this, they get stuck in this endless hamster wheel of struggling to find interested people, trying to set themselves apart, trying to make the sale, feeling like people only care about one thing, price. Do you know anyone like that? And now I'm asking for them to give me permission to continue on. When they say I am like that, I will then say, well, my mission is, and I will then go into my mission, and then maybe I'll go into a story. But it becomes a dialogue because they're asking me questions, as opposed to saying I have this functional skill, which gets shut down, or saying an elevator pitch, which, I mean, let's face it, most introverts aren't going to do that. We do this aimless networking thing, which is basically underselling ourselves and walking out with a bunch of business cards. Nobody calls us and we don't call them. So the whole thing is pointless.
I love the testing that you went through. Susan, I want to ask you, because you teach the self-introduction not as an elevator pitch, it's a pleasantry. What's your formula for a great introduction?
Well, I totally agree with Matthew. Elevator pitches should be pitched, and don't even do them in an elevator, because no one got in that small little room riding up and down to hear you talk about yourself. That's number one. The self-introduction has 3 parts to it. The first is, it is a pleasantry. It's 7 to 9 seconds. If you go on 30 seconds about yourself, my eyes are rolling in the back of my head and you can hear it. 7 to 9 seconds, it's a pleasantry. The second trait is you give people context for why you're there. So they know what makes you be in that room. That helps them connect with you. And the third one, and I got this from my friend Patricia Fripp, outstanding executive speech coach. first woman president of National Speakers Association, she said to me one day, RoAne, calls me by my last name, you tell them not to give their title. What you give, and this kind of links to what Matthew said briefly, is the benefit of what you do. I had that happen to me. I was going to the same coffee shop to write. I was writing What Do I Say Next? And I'd see this guy there every time. And one day we had a power outage. So I had to reorganize my writing. And we started to talk. And he asked me what I did. He could tell I had paper and pencil. Yes, that's how I wrote my books. And I asked him what he did. And he said this: I help rich people sleep at night. Oh my God. I said, oh, what pharmacy do you work for? But the reality is, he said, oh, I'm a financial planner. So what he did is he hooked me in with the benefit. And we've been friends ever since. So it's about giving people something that they can connect with. And here's the Susan RoAne, and this is everyone who's listening, watching. Bring who you are to what you do. People connect with who you are. What you do is secondary.
Be a person first. David, I want to ask you, because you revealed a secret on LinkedIn this morning. You kind of hate networking. How does networking differ from community building?
Yeah, it's a good question. I see networking as something that comes as a result of the work you do and the relationships you build over time. So I think people tend to see networking as, oh, if I network enough, then I will be successful and I will be able to build great things. And in my experience, it's just gone the other way. By building great things, by building great communities, the network emerges from there. The difference between a network and a community. So a network, you're generally looking at the individual as the node. So if it's my network, I'm connected to all of these different people and I'm the center. A community looks a lot more like a web. So lots of different people all connected to each other, and it's more interconnected in a way. And another thing I've experienced in my career is the best way to actually build your network is to build community, not to get everyone to know you and for you to make all the connections, but to be connecting people with each other and creating this more interwoven ecosystem that will really lead to you having a strong network and put you in a position where people see you as a gatherer, as an organizer, which is a really powerful place to be.
I love that perspective. Kelly, you talk about the shift from who you know to who knows what you know. What role does having a digital presence play in building a credible network? And a shout out to your 500,000 LinkedIn followers.
I hope they're all watching right now. Yes, people also say the eras of it's, what you know or who you know. And I said, no, we live in the era of who knows what you know. Because right now, we are all having this great conversation on networks and networking and introverts and, small talk and introductions and, oh God, I hate elevator pitches too, people are looking us up online. So as I like to say, you're networking when you're sleeping, because people may be looking up, your digital presence. And if you're really lucky, to pick up on David's point, you've got a community of people who are talking you up. Or, as Matthew pointed out, somebody who's had a great experience with you, working with you, is recommending you to somebody else. So in this era, you need to think, as I like to say, every human interaction is a chance to build a relationship. And that can happen in a multitude of different places. And having that is kind of freeing, because David's point of hating networking, just schmoozing for the sake of it, why? There's other things we can do with our time, like a sofa and Netflix. But, it's also kind of scary, because every text, every post, every interaction with someone else, be it a colleague, a sales call, you name it, standing in the line, getting on a plane, could lead to something. We just don't know in this day and age.
How strategic or intentional do you have to be in like your LinkedIn profile and what you're posting about? I mean, Susan talked about, being human, putting the benefit out there first. Is it similar doing it online or is it different?
Well, I think of networking spaces. I'd love to hear everybody else's. I think of them the same way I do as physical spaces. So how you are interacting, like, let's take an example, you get a promotion. How you would describe that with your professional colleagues or industry groups is likely different than how you would describe it to your friends and family, which is different than how you would be sitting with, a group of mates, in a pub having a pint and celebrating your promotion. It's still you, but the conversation is slightly different. So I think you need to contextualize these things. I also think you need to be very clear on what it is you want to be known and found for. So probably like everybody here, you're thinking Susan talking before her first teaching job in the Haight in San Francisco. My first career was as an attorney. I sure as heck don't want people calling me on banking and insolvency law, though those jobs, particularly insolvency, are in high demand right now. Not what I want to be called on. So you need to think about, what is it that I want to be found for? What is it that I want to start and initiate and have other people initiate and continue conversations with me about?
Who else wants to weigh in?
I'm going to weigh in. I started in Chicago in the bad old days, but when I was here, and I still do this, I was the language arts teacher, and one of my biggest successful students ended up being a stand-up comic who won the Seattle comedy competition. I told everyone I gave him his start. I still do this, though. I still, in my mind, correct people's grammar, and I have a T-shirt that says that. But I like what you said. It's so funny because when I did my first career change for workshop, at San Francisco State, a woman there was an attorney, and she said, "Is there any career change workshops?" Mine were for teachers, for attorneys. I said, "No, why don't you start one?" And she did, and that became her career. I think there's so many things out there, but we as humans need to support people in what they're interested in. And I love the idea of what you said about community. And I'm going to correct this. I have 2 separate books. Working a room is not networking. They have nothing in common with each other. There's not a word similar. Knowing how to work a room is really about socializing. Knowing how to network is the process that happens afterwards, where you build and stay in touch with people. And I would underscore this. Those incidental conversations in line at the airport awarded me 2 friends that I have stayed in touch with. In fact, one of whom moved here, and I watched Good Night and Good Luck with her the other day. So, if we look at everything as what is the purpose and what can I get out of it, I think we're screwing ourselves. We need to be just a little bit more relational rather than transactional.
I would actually add to that, Andy. I think networking starts before you go into any networking room as well. I mean, when I first got invited to this, there was a post that went out and shared all the panelists you were going to have. And so the first thing I did is I connected with everybody that was going to be on the panel. On top of that, I noticed that there were some people attending. So shout out to Jason Lewis, who is also an attendee on this, as he's just watching along. And I know that he's in New York. I know all about him. And I'm so blown away when I speak at events. A lot of times people are like, "Oh, I just never know who's going." And it's funny, I spoke at an event for Intel a while back, and one of the attendees came up afterwards and we talked for about 20 minutes. And he's like, "Oh, but it's easy to talk to you. I know all about you. I've just seen you present for an hour. I can't do that with everyone here." And it was the global meetup for the heads of global sales, the head of global marketing. I was like, what I know about Intel is you're considered a newbie if you've been there for less than 20 years. So is it fair to assume that most of these people were there last year? Was there not an attendance list that went out? Yeah, but I don't know anything about them. I'm like, can you not connect with them on LinkedIn beforehand? I mean, for me, when I go to a networking room, I want to know who's going to be in the room. There is no way I'm going to go into a networking room unprepared, because then I'm going to end up speaking to someone that's going to try and sell me insurance. What my focus is before I go to any meetup, I mean, meetup.com it was an example of this. You go to their LinkedIn profiles. Some people are like, oh, but there isn't, a way that I can easily check, but there is a conference app. Well, I can match the names of the people with the photos on LinkedIn and easily work out what they do. And some people will say, well, that takes a lot of time. And I'm like, well, firstly, I can get someone on my team to do that. But secondly, it takes a lot more time to talk to someone that's going to try and sell me insurance as opposed to someone I really want to talk to. And then sometimes people will say, well, actually, I can't even do that because there is no app. And I'm like, well, okay, what else can we do? Let me look. Is there a Facebook group about the meetup? Well, yeah, there is. Well, who went last month? Are they tagged? Great. Let's look those people up on LinkedIn and see what they do. And then I connect with everybody in advance, and not everybody, but the people I want to speak to. And I say, oh, I'm really interested. I'm really, on a mission to help introverts realize they're not second-class citizens. Their path to success is just different. Is there a lot of introverts that come to this event? And half the time I'm going to get, well, I'm an introvert. Yeah, you should absolutely come. Or I'm an extrovert. Don't worry. I'll show you. I'll introduce you to everybody. I don't know why extroverts think we need babysitting, but for some reason they think we do. But for me, I find that by going into any room, I want to make sure it feels like a bunch of pre-planned meetings. So then when I walk in and there's a whole bunch of familiar faces. And every now and then I'll walk up and somebody will look at me weird, and then they'll realize that we connected on LinkedIn and they're dying to come and speak to me. Why? Because they're introverted and they are worried about speaking to someone that's going to sell them insurance or someone that they don't know. So all of a sudden I got a 50-50 chance that half the room's dying to speak to me because they don't know anyone there. And the other half are dying to help me meet everybody, because then they've got an excuse to talk to everybody because they're extroverted. Plus, I know everything about them because I've checked out what books they've just been posting about. It just feels like I'm coming into a warm audience with a bunch of already existing friends as opposed to starting fresh.
I love it. So invest some of the time up front. It will save you time on the back end. Let's go into segment 2.